I agree with some of what the Congressman has said, although he is right about infrastructure. We have an infrastructure in place for something right now called corn ethanol. And it's in place because Republicans in 2005 passed an energy bill that created that infrastructure. Corn ethanol is probably the worst kind of fuel we can put into our tanks. Congressman Sensenbrenner was one of many Republicans to vote for that bill. And I'm glad to see that many of our Republicans are now opposing corn ethanol. But frankly, they're the ones who are responsible for helping to put it in place. I do agree that we need a Manhattan Project to get ourselves off of foreign oil. But we've needed that Manhattan Project for 30 years now, and it hasn't happened. I like to draw back to 1978. That's the year that Congressman Sensenbrenner ran for this office for the first time. We knew in 1978 and 1979 what was coming. This isn't new to anybody. We've gone through oil crisis after oil crisis, and still we've had no results in Washington on bringing about that Manhattan Plan that we need. In the meanwhile, our energy consumption has gone from 25% reliance on foreign oil to 70% reliance on foreign oil. And the people we're buying oil from are people that hate us. Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, Russia, all regimes that are wholly undemocratic and are actually supported and propped up by our petrodollars. This is one area where there's been a complete and total failure on the part of our congressional leadership, whether it's Democrats in power or Republicans in power. And frankly, the only way we're going to see change is if we get somebody else in Congress, instead of sending the same people back who put us over a barrel.
Thank you, Doctor. Next question. The United States has a serious problem with illegal immigration, with an estimated 12 to 15 million illegal aliens in the country today. What should Congress do to resolve the problem? We'll start with Dr. Burkee.
Thanks, Owen. It is a problem. It's a serious problem. It's one that has grown now for a couple of decades. As I see it, first of all, the problem of illegal immigration is a function of our Congress's approach to legal immigration. When we make it harder and harder for people to come here legally, we increase the incentives for people to come here illegally. Now, just a few years ago, I led a group of Concordia students down to Mexico. We worked in Tijuana, right across the border from San Diego, in literally a dump on the outskirts of town, building a house for a family of 9 that was living in a ramshackle house built out of cardboard. They had a tattered blue tarp for the roof. They'd have potable drinking water brought in, and that was about all that they could afford. These are desperate people who oftentimes come here because they are looking for work. And when we have an immigration policy, a legal immigration policy, that puts caps, for example, on seasonal workers, the H-2B visa, of 65,000 for the entire country. Now that's probably enough maybe for San Diego during peak harvest time. We rapidly increase the incentives for illegal immigration. Now, with regard to the immigrants who are here today illegally, this is one area where there is a vast disagreement between Congressman Sensenbrenner and myself, because his bill essentially is one that proposed to criminalize people who are here illegally. It's not a criminal, it's a civil offense right now, which would mean putting them into our jail system, rounding people up, splitting up families. And we're talking about families and parents, by the way, of millions of children who are American citizens. I'm from a party that boasts that we are the party of family values. That offends my family values. There are people who do need to be deported, who should not be here. But for those who are part of, who are members of families of American citizens, we need to protect American citizens and protect American families.
Thank you, Doctor. Congressman?
I think the Republican Party is also the party of the rule of law. If you break the law, you ought to pay the consequences for breaking the law. We have to deal with the issue of illegal immigration first. And the reason we have to do that is because it's always cheaper to break the law and hire an illegal immigrant than it is to hire either a U.S. citizen or someone who has a green card and work authorization and is here legally. I make no apologies for putting the issue of illegal immigration on the national agenda. And I was able to get the only border control bill through one house of Congress in December 2005. We should have done it a long time ago, but there wasn't the support to do that. Unfortunately, the Senate bowed to the illegal immigrants and amnesty lobby, and they passed an amnesty bill instead, which the American people will never accept, and Congress's opposition to amnesty for illegal immigrants, I think, reflects the overwhelming sentiment of the American people. What we need to do is to secure the border. We need to complete that fence between San Diego and Tijuana. We need to have more Border Patrol officers. I'm happy that even though my bill didn't pass, other legislation to accomplish both of those things did pass. The system of electronically verifying the accuracy of Social Security numbers, which was in my bill, was reauthorized last month by an overwhelming vote of the Senate and the House of Representatives. The reason we aren't doing anything is because the Democratic leadership has said that they don't want to even touch the issue of immigration until the first year of a second Democratic administration, 2013 by their count, much later by ours. The provisions that I have offered ended up, a lot of them becoming law. I think that our country is safer and we're having a better handle on the illegal immigrant problem, but there's much more left to do.
Thank you, Congressman. The tax burden to support the federal government has become extremely heavy. The expense of entitlements, the military, pork, and everything else is too much for some families to afford. Are you willing to extend the so-called Bush tax cuts and enact more tax cuts? Furthermore, are you willing to cut the spending equal to those tax cuts? And we'll begin with Congressman Sensenbrenner.
I proudly voted for the Bush tax cuts. They were tax cuts for the middle class. They should be made permanent, and it's Republicans that have been pushing to make those tax cuts permanent. And the revenue has gone up under the lower tax rates as more people have gotten jobs and more people have gotten raises and thus pay more taxes. The problem with the budget deficit is not the lack of revenue. It's the fact that Congress spends too much money. I'm proud of the fact that the National Taxpayers Union, which rates every member of Congress on all votes relating to taxes and spending, has consistently named me in the top 10 of 435 representatives for my votes to lower taxes and to cut spending. And just this afternoon, the Citizens Against Government Waste announced their roll call for 2007. I was one of only 3 members of the House of Representatives to get 100 score, and the other 2 were Japanese. The average House member, the House as a whole, averaged 30%. I'm 70% better. I don't think you can get too much better than that. Thank you.